Hey Patrick, this is Keaton Everett with ABC going over your pitching video from camp. I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about your mechanics and talk about your delivery and just sort of go over some balance, some timing, just sort of how we need our lower body to work, in relation to our upper body. You got, a good sort of foundation for everything. Now it's just a matter of just getting a little bit better timing and, just kind of talk about what we need to do through our delivery, through our foot strike, through our release to maximize our body and to get everything, in the best possible way to deliver the ball with as much power as we can, as much velocity as we can, and to really maximize our hips. Our hips are the biggest thing with our pitching. Is that's our engine of everything. That's where we generate the velocity. That's how we take strain off our elbow and our shoulder. And so the more we can use that lower half, the better off we're going to be. So we're going to kind of go through and talk a little bit about that. Initially right here, you can see how you kind of lean back and you lose your balance. All right, balance is so key with sports, especially with pitching. Is we got to make sure that's one of the biggest things we focus on is just balance throughout that whole delivery. All right, so you don't do it on the second one, but just that you did it on that one leads me to believe that it might be an issue for you. So just make sure you're working on it. That might have been a fluke, I don't know, but just make sure you're working on it. All right, so we'll go through and look at the second one. All right, so your initial setup. All right, everything's looking pretty good here. You got a nice wide base. All right, now what we look at is what happens when you lift that knee and you start everything. All right, so we're going to start going through here. All right, so initially you're doing good. There's no backwards movement. So you're set up over that back foot. You probably got, some probably 80% of your weight back here, so that's good. That's what we like to see. We don't like to see any backward movement, so you're doing good. Eyes are on that target. All right, everything's solid. Okay, so now what we look at is at the height of your leg kick, all right, which is about right here. All right, again, everything's solid. You're still over that back foot. All right, now hands-wise, hands might be up a little bit high. You can see your hands drop down a little bit. And so basically we want those hands, we want to cut off as much unnecessary space as we need to. So maybe just kind of feel around with dropping your hands a little bit lower so they can get kind of on top of that leg a little bit. And that just helps with timing, because at this point, so here's the height of your leg kick right here. All right, so at this point what we need to have happen, all right, this is where everything can go wrong, and this is where, this is where a lot of stuff happens down the mound, that if we just fix back here, these problems sort of fix themselves. So what we need to see happen here, we need to see hips going forward, we need to see that ball pop out of that glove, and we just need to see that foot and that knee start to follow, but staying behind your hips. All right, so you can see as we tick forward, you see that movement in the hip, which is good. See the legs start to go down, but what you're seeing is your hand still in the glove until right here. All right, so you're just breaking your hands just a little bit late, and you're going to see what happens as you go through your delivery with that. All right, so what we want to try to see is, you have a good hip initially, but this foot's starting to get out in front a little bit early. All right, so we want to try to see a little bit more here, keeping that foot behind that hip, and just get a little bit quicker with your hips, a little bit farther down, staying closed longer, and just get yourself down the mound a little bit farther. All right, and what I was talking about, that hip, that foot dragging, is that foot strike. So once that front foot first hits the ground, which is right here, you can see how this arm is, your hand is basically below that elbow, and just basically kind of lagging through your delivery. All right, and you watch what happens as you come through. Everything kind of comes forward, that elbow drops, and that's just a big power loss for you, is just having that arm drag through. All right, what we want to try to get to is a point where you're breaking your hands earlier, and then somewhere around here at your foot strike, we at least are on top of the ball. We don't have to be all the way up here, but somewhere where that ball's up above that elbow, so that just takes that strain off of there. Some guys, that foot strike will be here with the ball. You probably with the way your arm's working, we'd probably be farther out here somewhere with that ball up here. But we want the ball to get up here So we're working with the mound, throwing downhill, instead of working against the mound, having to go up and then down. Alright, so that's just because you're breaking your hands late, that arm's dragging through. So the more you can get that hand going, the quicker it's going to be able to work up, and you're able to get on top of that ball a little bit more. Alright, another thing too that is showing up here is we just need to get more active in our lower body. And what I mean by that is at your foot strike. Alright, we want to try to see a little bit more load on this back leg, back hip, alright, and a little bit farther down the hill. So you just need to get out a little bit farther. And so what that's going to do is that's going to get you, you know, being able to use your legs a little bit more. You know, getting out here, you know, just getting a little bit more into that back knee where it's starting to kind of rotate down in the ground. You know, that just gets you set up a little bit more dynamic. You know, this is almost just kind of straight. We want to have just a little bit of bends. You know, not too much where we're over our ankle, but just a little bit so we're just into our legs a little bit more. All right. Another thing too is watch this front side is already straight and it just stays locked the whole time. All right. We want to try to get to a spot that our glove never gets above our elbow. All right. And we just kind of get that elbow up there and then rotate that elbow down while keeping that glove out over our front side. You can see how it does pretty good at staying out there, but you see it kind of drop down to the side, and all that does is that just opens up that front side a little bit early, and that loses all that energy that's stored up in with our hips. All right, and what I mean by that is we want to see hip-shoulder separation. Our torque is our ability for our lower half to rotate before our upper half. All right, so you can see how we kind of rotate at the same time. All right, we want to try to get our hips in this position, and then our upper bodies, you know, back in this position. We kind of drew back here. All right, so you're just getting down a little bit ahead of yourself through your rotation. We just want to try to get yourself more in this back leg, more over this back hip, so we're staying a little bit straighter with our posture. You know, this keeping this front side closed longer with that elbow up will help. You know, staying back a little bit more with your legs will help, getting in that back leg a little bit more. But what we're going to see is through release, you know, we're going to get this back staying, you know, a little bit back here, and then we're going to be able to get out over that front foot a little bit more through your release point. All right, so you're doing a good job at driving through your foot. That back foot's still on the ground. You're creating this angle right here, but you can see that head is out. You know, we can probably pick up another couple inches or so. So we just got to make sure that we're staying back a little bit more and rotating, you know, using these hips more. All right, so you can just see everything's just kind of rotating at the same time. You know, hip goes, shoulders coming. We just want to try to stay back a little bit more, get this shoulder pointed towards home plate, and then let that left shoulder come through. All right, and again, this front side will help staying closed. But it's just a matter of just that initial setup of staying back a little bit longer, you know, and just getting your hips going quicker. You know, we just don't want this foot to get out too early. All right, so we just need more movement forward with your hips before that foot comes down, and then make sure that we're getting that arm up, getting that hand up on top of the ball. But again, you're doing really good. This is an awesome position here. You know, and now as you get older, get stronger, you know, it should be easy for you to really maximize your body. But just your initial setup, you know, working on just getting your hips closed longer, driving them farther down the mound, and then keep that right side closed a little bit longer, get down over that front foot, and you're going to be solid, especially as you get older. So, you know, hopefully you're able to kind of pick up a few things watching yourself. It's always good to kind of see yourself from watching yourself on video, just so you can kind of see everything and the way, you know, everything works for you. So just again, just get that body going quicker down the mound, and just stay in that back leg a little bit longer at foot strike, so you can get that rotation going with a little bit more power and a little bit more force. So thanks for making out to camp. Hopefully you had a great time, and we look forward to seeing you again with ABC.